Driving Podcast, and on this week's episode, we have a very special guest. We got Pratap Bose, who's the Vice President of Global Design at Tata Motors. So basically, you're the design boss at Tata Motors. You are very active on social media. What's your handle, Pratap?
It's on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's Bose Pratap.
Bose Pratap on
And
Twitter.
on Instagram, it's Pratap Bose.
And where do you answer most of your queries on how to be a car designer? On Instagram,
Most
on Twitter?
of them on Twitter, actually.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
So if you want to be a car designer, hit up Pratap Bose at Bose Pratap on Instagram, on Twitter.
Yep.
And actually he's very active. Now I see you responding to kids' sketches, to a lot of queries on people wanting to get their kids into car design
Yes.
or themselves getting into car design. So let's start this off with how to become a car designer. Obviously, you have to be able to sketch a car properly, right?
Yeah.
So you start off in school, so don't listen to your mathematics teacher and instead sit at the back and start sketching cars. Is that what you
absolutely.
started?
I mean, I drew cars ever since I can remember. And in, on the biology journal where you're supposed to draw the dissection of a cockroach or an earthworm or whatever, I would draw a car. And, at one point I was actually suspended from that class for a couple of days. But, you have to have that passion, first of all. You have to have a very keen sense of observation.
Okay.
This is fundamental to any designer, but car designer, of course. And yes, Sirish, a lot of people don't understand the value of, the skill that's involved, the visual language. Even today, you saw the sketches.
Yeah.
So when I say sheet of paper to sheet of steel, it always starts with that great sketch. And to make that happen, actually, also a lot of people undervalue a professional education. A lot of people think that they can draw a car and that's it. That's all you need to become a car designer. But I always recommend, in fact, if you see some of the responses, depending on the age of the person who's asked me the question, I always say, please try and get a professional car design education. There's so many options in India now that I didn't have when I was studying design in the 90s. So passion, talent and skill, and then really honing the education.
So we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
Let's start with what we are here to talk about, right?
Yes.
So it's the Altroz, the Tata Altroz.
Yeah.
It was showcased as a concept 2 years ago at the Auto Expo.
That's
it's
correct.
Finally here on the road. It's going to be out January. Yeah, you can buy it in January.
You can book it now, by the way.
You can book it now. What is your best feature or best line on the Altroz?
Wow, that's this is a tough one because a lot of lines actually have to come together to make the car. But if I do have to choose something, it's actually the slingshot around the back. It starts at the T logo, goes all the way around, and in this is exclusive to you. I'm sort of revealing it. It actually becomes the shape of the diamond DLO. So if you see, it starts at the T logo, goes all the way around the shoulder of the car, goes to the base of the A pillar, goes onto the pillar, over the cantrail, and ends in the C pillar. So this is this really beautiful continuous line. And I love it. I really love that one line.
I was telling you earlier that the Altroz is one of these few cars where the front is striking as well as the rear is striking, and it is very proportionate.
Yeah.
The wheel arch gaps,
Yes.
which has always been a bugbear. Now the wheel arch gaps are now symmetrical.
Yes.
Though I still think that you've designed the car for 17s or 18-inch wheels.
Yes.
And 16s look kind of small on the car. So I want to talk about how productionizing your ideas is so difficult because there's engineering constraints, there's cost constraints. I think that'll be more than the engineering constraints. What are your biggest frustrations?
One of them is the performance expectations. If you look at even global OEMs, when they bring the same model to India, they have to actually vary their tire to wheel ratio.
And also the ground clearance.
Yes. So these are the things, so the stance of the car basically does change. Having said that, seriously, it's very important that you protect an architecture for a certain size. So we can go up to 17 if we want on this architecture. It's just that the roads will not allow us to do that because we'll have too little rubber and then the tire will fail. You know.
Now,
So
since you know that the Altroz is primarily for India, I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be exported also. Couldn't you have designed it for 16s?
we could have, but like I said, 16s are already large in the segment. Many cars in this segment don't actually wear 16-inch wheels, and we've at least pushed it to that. But the hope is, as the roads get better in India, we can move it up to 17s as well.
For Tata Motors, how important is style?
The very fact that I'm sitting here and talking to you, and I've been sort of part of our product launches, in the last 5 odd years, shows, what importance we give to style and design. You will see many OEMs, you won't sort of put design on this platform actually. It's one of our real core strengths in product. More and more, Sirish, when technology equalizes, it's happened in other fields. It's happened in televisions. It's happened in consumer electronics. When the technology hits a sort of plateau, that every company can supply you that same technology, the only differentiating factor is actually design. And when you have EVs in the future, not so distant future, design will be the only thing that will actually stand out, because batteries, battery management, motors.
It's all
Pretty much anyone can make an EV if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So
in fact, I was going to end this podcast with EVs.
Yeah.
But since you already brought it up,
right.
what could you do differently with an EV? Now, we've seen a lot of EVs that look like conventional cars, right? Why do EVs have to look like conventional cars?
Because you're still in that transition period of convincing people who buy conventional cars to actually buy an EV. So, you are asking them anyway to take a leap of faith in terms of, switching technology.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
If you ask them to take a second leap of faith at the same time, it would probably be a little challenging. So if you look at Teslas, for example, apart from one of the latest products, most of their cars look, pretty pretty conventional in that sense.
Well designed, but conventional.
But very well designed, I think we are in that transition phase. In India, anyway, we are in electrification of cars.
Yes.
So electrifying IC engine cars.
Yeah.
We are not born EV yet.
Yes.
I think when we go to born EV in a few years, I think the customer will also be ready for it.
Wouldn't the Nano be a perfect car to become full electric?
It can be, yeah. I think, that sort of... we had shown a car called, Pixel and Megapixel many years ago. 2012 and 13. And I think the great thing about, cars like the Nano is that they are marvels of packaging. Of course, it packaged, a current Nano packages a IC engine.
Yes.
EVs, you'll have a different sort of layout.
Yeah.
But I think in a born EV era, for city use, shared mobility, concepts like that will really come to the fore.
If you were to do an EV, what would you do differently?
I think if it was born EV,
Yeah.
I would definitely play with the proportions a lot more than we can in electrified IC cars.
Yes.
Electrified IC cars are built for engines.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
And then we package, EV drivetrain. It doesn't fundamentally change the proportion. If we could do born EVs, I would give a lot more to the passenger than to the engine, because there is no engine.
Yes.
So I think that would be fascinating to really get into.
And I'm sure you're already working on one, but you can't obviously talk about it, right? Because you all work at what? 5-year lead cycles, 8 years?
Yeah, about 7 to 10 years. Let me put it that way.
7 to 10 years. So basically now you're sketching your car for 7 years.
Yes.
How do you think of what I would want 7 years from now?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because nobody does know. Nobody knows that. If you ask any normal person, about their lives, even next month, they won't know.
Yes.
And which is why, if you saw in the presentation today, we really pushed the design really hard. How I know is that when we have some management reviews, some of the senior management are a little uncomfortable. If they were comfortable, I would look at it as a sign that we are going wrong.
Too conservative.
Yes, because then it's something of today. I think to create a little level of discomfort is very important. Let me give you a couple of examples. One is, Harrier, when we move the lamps down.
Yes, yeah.
And now every company,
it's the trend everywhere.
Everyone's
but
doing
you were the first ones to do it.
When we did that, so when you see the car, it's already, 4 years in the design process. So I've already shown this in 2015, 16. And you should see the reaction on some of the senior management, But you have to have the conviction that, in the process of development, where you will spend 48 months, the world will change. And we came absolutely smack bang in the middle of change.
Yeah.
So
what do I want 7 years from now?
I really don't know.
Or what are you imagining? What would I want?
It would depend on, of course.
Okay, 7 years from now, am I driving an EV?
You are driving an EV.
Oh shit.
You are driving an EV for sure.
Oh shit.
But you will not miss.
Okay.
You will not miss performance. I can tell you.
Okay,
that.
so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's like if you ask someone.
That's a relief.
It's like if you ask someone who's using a dial, phone.
Yes, yeah.
That look, here's a phone with buttons. He'll say, look, I'm going to miss that sound.
Yes, yeah.
It's about communication at the end of the day. So for you, it will be about driving. It will be about performance. It may or may not be about the sound. We can recreate that. But I think the future is
it's electric.
It's
now
clear.
Deal with it. Yeah.
It's clear, absolutely. But it can be as exhilarating,
Now
it's like someone saying, am I going to miss my horse?
Yeah. True. Yeah.
When Mr. Benz or whoever came along with a IC engine.
True.
People would have missed their horse, for a short time.
So you obviously your primary role is design, is style, but do you also look at other aspects of the car, like engineering the car? Is design very involved in making sure shut lines are very tight?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? How do you ensure quality?
So that's a very good question, because we have a new function in design called perceived quality and design quality, actually, which is just like you said, any line, a shut line or a junction line, is where multiple parts or materials come together. So one of the most complex areas of a car on this front is actually the front fender, bumper, headlamp, bonnet.
Okay.
That junction.
Okay.
Because you got the bumper is in plastic, the fender may or may not be in plastic, the hood is usually in steel, and then you have a lamp in all of this.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the kind of, if one moves, the other will have to move. So the tolerances. Each one expands at a different rate. So if you put it in 40 degrees of sunlight or 50, the expansion and contraction will be completely different, because they're different materials. The paint that goes on has to be different, but they still have to look the same.
Yeah, they have to match. Yes.
Yeah. So we have this craftsmanship team in design and in engineering, perceived quality and design quality, who spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get this right. And plus, each part comes from a different supplier. The lamp comes from someone, etc., etc. So it's a great tribute to them, actually. They have, in fact, I think at some point, Sirish, you should do an Unsung Heroes podcast where I will expose you to some of the people who you all don't actually get to see, but you notice if their work goes wrong. If the craftsmanship isn't great, you will say, But if it's great, you don't even notice it. It's a bit like IT, when everything's working,
it's working.
You don't call the IT guy. The moment something happens, you call the IT guy.
So talking about teams, now you head 3 teams. Pune, Italy, and the UK. What happens in the 3 different divisions?
I had 1 team actually.
Okay.
But then there happened
3
to be
locations.
3 locations.
Yeah. Okay.
But going back to your question, it was actually 3 teams earlier. And then we united everything under this global design. And coming back to your earlier question about where design fits in the company, when we went for a global design organization, we made it 1 team in 3 locations. So that's the kind of difference.
So what's the different activities that happen in the 3?
So very easy. The creative activity happens in all studios.
Okay.
So you saw in the global competition that we do for all programs, you get the best ideas. It's very interesting when you ask an American designer to design a 3.8 meter car. You know, that's like the load bed of a pickup truck. You know, but we do a whole car in that length. It's very, very interesting when you ask a designer from Korea to do a truck. You know, like an Intra for India, for example. So you get the best ideas when you have this sort of diverse range of inputs. That's one. But in all cases, after the creative competition is done, we have a selection process. We select the final sketch. That studio or that designer will develop it to a point. And then we, at one point, move everything to India. Because this is where we manufacture. This is where all our suppliers are. This is where our plants are. So they have the unenviable task of really going through the rigor and what we just spoke, the craftsmanship quality, the supplier quality, the rigor to take it into production. So the kind of work the India team does is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Managing such a big team, do you still have time to actually sit down and sketch cars?
I do, but you know, I spend a lot of time in airports and planes. You can understand, even you do that, and you get a little bit of time there. But I never actually, I never share that. I never share my vision with the team. I will guide, manage the process. It's like a conductor of an orchestra never sits and plays any instrument, you know, but he understands music and understands how to coordinate. I think that's my role now, more than trying to out create a 20-year-old designer who will come and blast you out of the park.
So who's the guy or girl responsible for the Altroz?
There is no guy or girl. You know, like I said, it's a whole team who works, and that too in phases. So we have a intense creative phase, and we have a production realization phase. So yeah, I won't be able to actually say whose it is, and actually we are quite proud of operating like that.
Okay.
Because that's the reality. You know, I can sign a sketch, but it doesn't make it my design. So you know.
So talking from where we started off. How do you become a car designer? So you talked about education being very important. What would you recommend? So say there's this 10-year-old or 15-year-old kid who wants to be a car designer. What should his education process be?
My feeling is, you know, you should get at your bachelor's level, you should get a general design degree, like a product design or industrial design. And then you should do a specialization or a master's in automotive.
And what universities would you recommend?
So there's lots. There's, in India, there's NID.
Which you are from, right?
Yeah, I'm from NID, but we didn't have transportation design in my time. Now they do. There's MIT in Pune, there's IDC, there's Strat College, and of course overseas there are many. You know, in Korea, and now the Chinese universities are coming up in a massive way, massive. And then the European, Royal College of Art, Coventry. We are very fortunate to be in UK where we can tap into these. In Italy, IED in Torino. So there's some good Pforzheim.
And is it important to have a foreign education, or are our Indian education standards up there with the best?
I think they're up there with the best in terms of what's coming out, and I make it a point, Shirish, to every time I visit India, or at least every couple of times, to visit one of the design schools. So I did NID. The last time I was here, I was in Pearl Academy yesterday in Delhi. I think it's very, very important, and I think at the level of the skill level is extremely high, and it's the same as probably any other place. But it's the experience which makes the difference. So we have that issue. You know, a student in Europe will see 100 years of car design on the street. So if you're sitting in Paris, London, Milan, Turin, you will see a car from the 20s, you will see a car from the 50s, which we won't see here. So it's just that exposure. but Indian kids, I mean, if I speak for myself, we learn very, very fast, and we can overcome that.
Okay, I have to apologize for the audio because there's a major sit-down dinner happening, and I think that's the call to action. So we'll quickly wrap this up.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your standout designers, the 5 car designers that you really admire.
5.
Okay, 3,
Wow.
2,
No, I mean,
5, 10.
I thought 5 was less, but one is Giugiaro.
Okay.
You can't have a conversation on car design without him, because I think just the sheer number of cars he's done, and the kind of cars. You know, to do a Punto, to do a Renault, or to do a Polo, or to do a Golf, you know, which is produced in millions of pieces, is very, very significant. So Giugiaro, I would say, is one of them. I think Chris Bangle, is the other one.
Yeah, I think now everybody wants Chris Bangle to come back, right?
Come back.
He was the little conservative looking at the cars that are coming out of that brand now.
Yeah. So Chris Bangle is one of those standout. There's so many. Gordon Wagner now in Mercedes. I think, Jerry McGovern and Massimo, what they're doing at Land Rover. I have my fingers crossed for Julian. I think
at Jaguar.
At Jag, he's immensely talented. He's got a great team, and I wish them, all the best. Thomas Ingenlath in Volvo. Peter Schreier. How can you not talk about him?
And what he's done at Kia.
At Kia.
Transformed the brand.
Yeah, and now, of course, Luke Donker-Volker. I think, who else? Lawrence in Renault. Very, very significant. These would be, I think.
So when you're talking about Jaguar and Land Rover, how much do you and your team learn from JLR? Is there any cross-sharing of ideas, of thoughts?
There's a lot of thought sharing, let me put it that way. J and LR, actually a lot of people call it JLR. Design-wise, actually they're J and LR because they're two completely separate brands. They have distinct identities. They have a very different set of customer, or an audience. So they also keep that pretty apart, But they have common processes. And we benefit a lot from those processes. This is why, when we talk about craftsmanship or design quality, how things come together, I think we've learnt a lot from them. They learnt a lot from us as well, by the way.
In terms of what?
In terms of the way we handle cost. They're amazed to see the cost at which we are able to produce and sell a car that we do. The Nexon or the Altroz or the Harrier. The Harrier's on a Defender Sport. Discovery Sport. And they're surprised that we can give that kind of product for the cost at which we give it. So there's always this cross-learning. And I think with Julian, with Massimo and team, we meet very, very regularly. We all live in the same part of England as well. In and around Warwick.
So where do you spend most of your time?
Wow. I would like to spend a little more time at home, which is now in Warwick. But yes, I spend a week in India at least every month, a couple of days in Turin, and then, so I would say half and half.
And what do you drive?
I drive a Velar.
Okay.
Because I love that car. I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. When you talk about a car fits a certain person's lifestyle, you have to find a car that fits your lifestyle. And it just fits what we do, where we are as a family. It's a brilliant car. And every time I get into it, I think of what Jerry and Massimo and team have managed to achieve in terms of design and quality and what that product means and stands for.
What is your lifestyle like as a designer? Do you have like certain go-to brands that you swear by? Are there any brands that inspire you apart from the automotive? Other brands that inspire you?
I think IKEA, for example, is huge. And when brands inspire you, they don't have anything to do with price or cost or premium position. I think it's got a lot to do with intelligence, with what they stand for. So I think IKEA or IKEA stands for something. I love Uniqlo.
Okay.
I think Uniqlo is a phenomenal brand. Muji. that sensitivity towards design, and it doesn't have to come at a premium price. I really, really like that, and I think in automotive, if I look, Volvo Polestar is for me really stand out, and Ferrari. I think one name we missed. I think Fabio Manzoni. I think Ferraris are absolutely outstanding in that genre, in that space.
And what do you think of his whole thought of not having all the cars look generic and everything having their own complete identity?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And when you look at the level of performance that they are talking about, where aerodynamics is such a
honed in the wind tunnel.
It's such an important thing, but they still make that car look so beautiful.
Yes, and so desirable.
People don't buy it for a drag coefficient. They assume that it's that. They buy it for the performance, the beauty, the power, the elegance almost. I think what they are doing in Ferrari is outstanding. Outstanding.
I'm sure you are now gearing up for the Auto Expo, so you have a ton of concepts and obviously production cars also ready. All of it signed off? Or do you...
Signed off in the sense?
In sense of what all you're showing at the Auto Expo, or are you still going to be doing it? And do you now burn the midnight oil?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, even while we speak, a lot of the teams are burning a lot of midnight oils, but we will have a really outstanding Auto Expo. I mean, fingers crossed, of course, but both on the PV, CV, no, not both, I would say three, on the PV, CV and EV business units. I think it's one of the most complete participations from us as a company. And like I said, this addition of the electric vehicle business unit makes it so interesting, so exciting. It's so much to look forward to. It's this new frontier. We are doing a lot in commercial vehicle design.
Okay.
So there should be some interesting stuff there. PVs, of course, you guys all are very well versed and aware of. But Auto Expo is going to be stand out. I think it's very nice that it's a 2020. It's an even number.
Yes.
So we will be able to remember it in the future.
So watch out for the Auto Expo in 2020. In February. Watch out for Tata Motors stand.
Yeah.
PV, CV and EV. It actually goes well. Huh?
Yeah.
It flows off the tongue quite well.
Absolutely.
And of course, a lot of stunning cars from Tata Motors. I think personally now we are under embargo, so we can't give you our opinions, and I won't give you my opinion also on the Altroz, but I will say this, that the Altroz, it looks fantastic and it cuts a phenomenal figure on the road. So getting that 45X concept into production and not diluting it much, only just giving it practicalities.
Yeah.
That has really worked, and well done on that. And I wish you all the best, Pratap, and obviously to everybody at Tata Motors. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'll obviously have a lot of feedback on and a lot of queries on car design, which we will shoot you.
Yeah, please do that. See, if you allow me, and if I may, just a message. When I was sort of going through the design education in the sort of early and mid 90s, we didn't sort of have access to car designers because there was no internet pretty much. There was no Twitter, there was no Instagram. My sort of offer to parents, to kids out there, who want to make a career of car design or in car design, drop me a line. I mean, I try and respond to as many queries, as many people who write into me. So if you're genuinely interested in the field, there's of course a lot of information out there, so please do some research. But if there's something specific you want to know about car design or design in general, drop me a line on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll definitely try and get back to you, because I think the more information you have, the better it is for your decision making. And like I said, I didn't have the benefit of that as I was going through the process of being a student. So take the chance.
Thank you, Pratap.
Thank you.
A very kind offer. What are the job opportunities like for car design?
I think if you're good, the sky is the limit, the world is your oyster, and this is true. Not only in India, but overseas. There's lots of extremely talented Indian car designers working, yes, at Tata Motors, but also overseas, in Pininfarina, in Geely, in Renault, in Kia. So take the chance, be the best you can be, and there's no limit to where you can go as a car designer from India, because your skills, your talent are as good, if not better, as anywhere else in the world. But you just have to grab or make your own opportunities. I think that's fundamental, because we do have limited opportunities in India. It's only 2 or 3 big end-to-end OEM design studios. So that's slightly limited. But having said that, there's so many startups in the two-wheeler field.
Especially electric two-wheelers.
Oh my God,
scooters.
so Ather, Ultraviolet, you name it, who are doing phenomenal work. So get into, you always have that possibility. And it's something we didn't have, like I said, 20, 25 years ago. So great prospects. We will move into an era of mobility design, a mobility as a service, which means it's much more than designing just a car or a bike. It'll be a system that you'll have to think about. So if you're getting into this area, think beyond just a car or a bike or a truck. You think about how the entire ecosystem will work, because that's where design thinking and your input as a designer will be really the most valuable. So, a great time to actually study and become a mobility designer.
Yeah, so like Pratap says, grab the opportunity.
Yes.
Great time to be a mobility designer.
Yes.
And
Yes.
obviously, you need talent,
Yep.
you need vision,
Yep.
and you need to work hard.
Yeah,
Right.
and that formal education in design.
And the formal education. That's very important. The formal education in design.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pratap. Thank you for being on the Thrill of
Thank
Driving
you.
podcast. Thank you for watching and listening to the podcast. If you have comments, please shoot us your queries. We'll send it off to Pratap and we'll get him to answer it.
Yeah.
Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what you like about the podcast. And if you like this podcast, like, comment, and share. Thank you for listening and watching. And
Thank
you,
you.
Pratap.
Thank you.
All the best, and we look forward to catching up with you at the Auto Expo very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Subscribe to the Evo India channel and hit the bell icon to keep pace with the thrill of driving.